What's up, everybody? In my last video, I was just giving the news that the writing process for the new album has been completed. At least all the lyrics and the song structures. I'm sure they'll go through some form of revision and maybe additions and stuff like that as we develop them further. But we're ready to start recording, and so I will be recording that to put up on YouTube as well for people that are interested and just want to see how, like, a band like us that does everything DIY, how that process works. It's not as simple as just like booking a recording session somewhere and going in there and walking out with a CD. It's a more involved process. A lot of different since we're doing everything ourselves, it'll be a good way for people that are interested in recording themselves, just kind of see how we do it. At least I'm not saying I'm an expert by any stretch. I'm always constantly trying to learn new stuff, but it'll be a fun way to at least get the basics. And so with that, just in case anybody's interested, we have 2 albums still up for sale. This is our newest, Into This Abyss. And then Craig from Uncommon Interests, a record label out of Florida, helped us to produce this one. It was actually his idea. And it came out really cool. It's available in 2 colors. It's in translucent green with a yellowy splatter, and then a yellow with a greenish splatter. We have, I think, only 3 copies left of the translucent green and maybe like 10 or 15 of the yellow vinyl. And of our new album, I think we're down to 30 or so copies, a piece in each colorway. There's 2 colorways as well. It's the translucent Coke bottle clear with purple swirl, and then there's a blue with black splatter. So, so I love records. That's why I like to, if we're going to put something out, I want to put it out on vinyl. I collect them, especially, there's bands that I love. I try to buy like everything they've put out. Like, I think I have almost every Skinny Puppy album plus single. I mean, some represses. I don't have all first edition presses, and some I have multiple pressings. Nine Inch Nails I'm a big fan of. I've got a ton of Misfits stuff. What are some other bands that I collect? I don't know. Kiss, Alice Cooper. I think I have every Alice Cooper album on vinyl. But so to me it's interesting. It's like a much more fun, interesting physical format, and the reason I think it sounds better. It's more interactive. It feels like when you're listening to a vinyl, it feels like an experience rather than just something in the background on your Spotify playlist. Not to disparage Spotify, because I listen to that all the time too, but it's just sort of they're both kind of different animals. So over the next few videos, what I wanted to do is just talk about a few records that I got recently that I thought would be interesting to, if you liked us, you might like these bands too, so it might be worth checking out. And I'll try to include like a Bandcamp link to their album, as well as I'll put the link to our albums in the bio description, whatever that thing's called, under the title of YouTube. So if you click on the read more, I'll include the links to order these albums if they're still available. Some albums, when you're doing short runs, they sell out pretty quick, but if they're not, at least you can check these bands out on the internet and look for them. The 2 that I wanted to start talking about, the first 2 that I wanted to bring up for today are it's an album. They're not brand new. I think that this split came out in 2019, so just before the whole shutdown shenanigans began, but it's still relatively new. So it's a split, which actually I wish I had it. I was looking all over for it. I can't find where I put it, but I had a split back in the day of 2 bands from Minnesota. And so when we were starting out, the concept of like horror punk, it was kind of, it wasn't a new concept. It was just new-ish. It was just at the very dawn of the internet, where people really started having the internet and you could email people, and it was hard to find other bands that were similar. I mean, there was obviously the Misfits, who were all like influenced by. Then there's 45 Grave, even though they're a little more on what would be like the death rock side. I guess even early TSOL fits the bill. But as far as like this new wave that came out, kind of, it feels like a lot of the new generation of horror punk bands all kind of got their start when the Misfits reformed in the late 90s, that's what gave people the impetus to like really want to like take that sound and do their own band. The same way that when the Ramones toured England, all of a sudden you had the Sex Pistols, the Clash, you know, like every other like punk band from Britain. It was based on the idea of like the Ramones. So there were both of these bands on the split predate that formation. So they're that's why I appreciate both of these guys, because they've been around longer than we have, and they're still making music, which is cool as hell. And one of them has been along substantially longer. One of them, you know, maybe 5 or 6 years. But the two bands based out of, they're both from Minnesota, are Impaler and Ripsnorter, and this is a split. It's a real interesting. So the reason, like I was saying, I like vinyl because of this sort of physical format. This is a really creative and cool way of doing an album cover. So it's kind of like a poster folded over. So you've got the cover here. This is the Day of the Dead cover. This is the Ripsnorter part. And on the back, it sort of looks like a 7-inch, but just big because it's an LP. So you've got this cool orange vinyl. It's a fold over and it's got the band logo. But so at first I was like, I thought it was a split. It's just Ripsnorter. But when you pull it out, you get the Impaler stuff. So it's a split vinyl. There's 3 songs by Ripsnorter on one side, and then one song, I believe, or no, how many songs? 1, 2, 3 songs by Impaler on the flip. And it's got, so when you open it up, let me take it out real quick. It's cool. It's a nice, thick, heavy cardstock kind of poster, so you could, you know, there's the Ripsnorter one, however you want to view it, and then on the other side you've got the Impaler version. So it's got Impaler artwork, logo, and credits and stuff, and then also like a lyric insert on nice heavy cardstock, really good thick cardstock. So just by looking at the guys from Impaler, you can kind of see the similarity, or at least the kindred spiritness of us. I like both of these bands because they do not fit into the, Impaler's been around since the early 80s, 1983. So they were like early first, I don't even know who, I guess they would have been contemporaneous with the first lineup of the Misfits. And they had definitely like that early metal, like Wasp kind of vibe. They've been on the, I think it was the Poltergeist soundtrack, the Trauma film. They've been around and they've done a bunch of cool stuff. They definitely, and the reason why I like both these bands too, Ripsnorter was formed in 1994, I believe. So they both predate the reformation of the Misfits. So they weren't influenced by the song. I think I'll get back to that later. But so as much as I love the Misfits and I love that Mike Graves era, I saw them live a couple times and it was pretty mind-blowing. They were so good. It was a super fun show. I was like way too young to see the Misfits when they were originally around. I didn't even know who they were. I would have been like 7 or 8 years old. But you know, the legend forms, and then when you get a chance to see whatever version it is, even if you're not a big fan of them now, it definitely formative for me. So I think the big problem is because they're sort of the go-to band in the world of like what would be considered horror punk or whatever, they become the template sonically, not just sort of aesthetically or just general vibe, and that's, I think, one of the big drawbacks to the genre horror punk, in that everybody's listening to the same one band, there's not too far you can go. If everybody's trying to ape Glenn Danzig's vocal styling, doing the crooner, the Jim Morrison kind of Elvis-y thing, not to knock it. I mean, if people do that, that's cool if it's natural. I just think that it becomes affected a lot of the time, and so that, to me, is not my favorite vocal styling. And as much as I love Danzig, and I especially love Sam Hain, as far as if I wanted to try, there's no chance I could sing like that, and it would sound ridiculous if I did. So I think just for any other band out there, it's much cooler, to me, if you just sing like you sing instead of trying to sound like someone else. But I mean, that's my own 2 cents. Yeah, so this split, it's very cool. It still sounds great. Both bands sound really good. And you know, obviously the lineups have changed. since like, you know, they started and stuff, but I think Ripsnorter is primarily the same members. I know that like the only OG member from the very first start of Impaler is Bill Lindsay. He's the singer, and but that's pretty, you know, that's a pretty strong run, right? 1983 to now, and still making music is pretty cool. So that's a great record to check out, and different from the typical. If you think you know what horror punk sounds like, these guys sound a little different. Definitely, Impaler definitely has that metal vibe, almost like early White Zombie has it. They cover one of their first like notable songs they covered was a Wendy O. Williams song, who also is that early first wave of not first wave, but you know, early heavy metal, early '80s heavy metal, kind of pre-thrash. Wasp, I guess, is like the biggest jumping off point. First album, Motley Crue, that kind of a vibe. And then, yeah, so anyways, so from Minnesota, and I think like, honestly, I think like the Midwest kind of has a strong affinity for like the horror thing, which I guess just because of the like the dreary atmosphere or something like that, but there's a lot of cool horror-based bands that come out of that area. And so that brings me to another one that's not from Minnesota and has been around even longer, but and it would be hard to classify actually as horror punk. But I think the thing that I like the most about horror punk, honestly, is just I love the aesthetic. It's like I could never be a goth guy, right? I'm like a big giant freaking dude. I'm not I'm not skinny and effeminate and androgynous or anything. I'm just like clearly just like a big guy. Horror punk to me is sort of like you've got that gothic aesthetic, but in a much more aggressive and tougher vibe. I mean, the Misfits would have been a dangerous show to go to back in the day. A lot of these bands that have an air of menace. It's not a friendly, or I like it when it's not a friendly genre. And so to me, like the aesthetic of horror punk is what I really enjoy. If everybody band starts to sound the same or is all aping the Misfits and sounds exactly like that, I think that's boring and kind of like the Misfits are the Misfits. There's no reason to try to be the Misfits. It's better to find your own voice, find your own lyrical style, find your own topics that you want to sing about. Not every song has to be based on a horror movie. There's only so many horror movies that exist, and if you want to do it once in a while, that's cool. But even the early, Misfits didn't just sing about horror movies. In fact, I think they only have like maybe 3 or 4 songs that even are loosely based on a horror movie. They have the elements of that. And the real scary things, it's like the song Nike A Go-Go, which is about Nike missiles, giant fucking nukes. That's scarier than Frankenstein or Dracula or Freddy Krueger, right? The impending nuclear holocaust that could happen at any time. So I think introducing there's plenty of really horrible things to either exercise those demons personally if you have bad thoughts going on in yourself and you just have all this stuff you have to get out. I think that's a valid topic for lyrics. I like songs that are introspective. Most of the bands that I sort of really enjoy their lyrics tend to be on the introspective side, like Black Flag. Almost all of Greg Ginn and Henry Rollins' lyrics, they never really steer into political movements or anything like that, but they're about frustration and just internal turmoil. Nine Inch Nails is another good example. So that I prefer that. The more like cartoony and stuff that horror punk tends to get, the more I'm not super into that. But I mean, I'm just one dude, and I'm not speaking for the band or anything like that. Everybody likes what they like. I just have my own personal preferences, so I'm not talking crap on it. I'm just saying that's my own 2 cents. The other band is a band from Italy. Okay, so and not only are they older than Impaler, has been around since '83. These guys go back to 1977, and in the same way, it's been one founding member, the singer, that's been through all the iterations of the band. The lineup has changed. They put out a ton of records, but they're obscure in America. I don't remember how I found out about it. I think I saw a video just randomly on YouTube, and I was like, who the hell is this? And they have the total horror rock aesthetic, makeup and ghoulish appearance, but a more early proto-metal kind of a vibe. That same kind of pre-thrash heavy metal. And that's still kind of what they're making. And so they came out an album a year ago that I ordered. And maybe it was a year ago, let's see. 2019 as well. Really cool package. They're called Death SS. This album cover art is amazing. It kind of reminds me of like Ken Kelly's Kiss album art, but looks like it was someone like Dan Brereton's comic book painting style, but it's neither of them. I looked it up and I can't remember the artist's name. Somebody Horley, I guess I should know. But yeah, so this is Death SS circa 2019. The lead singer, Sylvester, can't remember his last name. He's the founding member. He's the guy in the middle there, I believe. I'm not that versed. I need to look him up, but this album is great. So let me see if I can find the credits just to so I know what I'm talking about here. Yeah. Steve Sylvester. So that's where the SS comes from. It's not some allusion to the Nazis. They're apolitical. There's nothing about that in there. They're just like a horror rock band. So the song in here I think I liked the most was Creature of the Night. I thought was really good, or maybe Slaughterhouse. I don't know. At least I hope they're not, because I can't understand Italian, so hopefully they're not veering off in the direction. But anything I've seen on the internet has never once indicated to me that they have any sort of that they adhere to the tenets of National Socialism. So I do not think that is, but I would maybe I'll double check now that I'm second guessing myself. But anyways, both those bands are very cool. So it's pretty interesting, to see like a band from places far away as Italy doing their own thing that also still sort of looks like, they could definitely play with a band like Ghost or a band like us or a band like Impaler and Ripsnorter or any of the like sort of bands that delve into the macabre. Yeah, I don't know. So there you go. Check out a couple of those bands. Give them a listen. Tell me what you think. I've got more records that I want to talk about, so hopefully this was halfway interesting, and if it was not, just leave a comment and say this sucks, don't do this again. But if you liked it, I've got more. A couple of other cool albums. One of them I wanted, the next one I'm going to talk about is a album that just very recently came out. It's an EP from a member of a band that we used to play with fairly often, but now he's spun off into his own thing. So I'll leave you hanging with that, and I'll discuss that record next. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed it, and hope you want to check out some of this stuff and, I don't know, something different. All right, have a great day. I'll talk to you later.